Tonight, the ambassador, I just go give you a little highlights of his impressive, really, credentials. He not only lives there in the country he came from, he's here 1 year, right? 1 year. He's had been the ambassador from Zaire to commencing 1988. Before that, he was the ambassador to Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, as well as to the European Economic Community. In 1986-87, he was the State Commissioner for the International Cooperation on Foreign Trade. And in 1985-86, he was the State Commissioner for Public Health. Ambassador Mushobekwa was directly responsible for the implementation of the World Health Organization's recommendations concerning primary health care, which saw the division of the country to multiple health zones aimed at buttressing the health care system. And Ambassador Mushobekwa also initiated the fight against AIDS in Zaire, establishing a first committee to focus specifically on the problem of AIDS. Before that, he goes back a long way. He was ambassador to the People's Republic of China, Vietnam, and the People's Republic of Korea. He was State Commissioner for Transportation and of Transportation and Communication in his own country, and then State Commissioner for Public Works and Land Improvement. Zaire, in case you all haven't looked at the map, is bigger than Texas, and that's big. Goes back, it keeps going back until 1969-70, where he was the first-class embassy secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs and of International Cooperation. The ambassador has been honored with 2 distinctions of the highest order. In Zaire, he was Chevalier of the National Order of the Leopard, and in Belgium, he is Grand Officer of the Order of the Crown. I like that leopard business. He is also a member of the World Trade Bank External Technology Advisory Group for the study on health policy in the sub-Saharan African. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Mushobekwa. I said it.
Mr. President, distinguished guests, you forgive me for my English. It's really very weak. It's a broken one. But I'll try to do my best. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to address such a remarkable audience under this prestigious roof. I wish to congratulate and express my sincere thanks to the Baltimore Council of Foreign Affairs for organizing this meeting and giving me the opportunity to address this diverse gathering of distinguished community leaders, international professionals, and citizens who are interested in international affairs. As the first representative of the government of Zaire to have been invited to participate in the Distinguished Speakers Program, I very much appreciate the chance to discuss with you tonight Zaire's position and role in international relations. The Baltimore Council has been a privileged forum for many personalities with dramatically different perspectives and backgrounds. I am therefore delighted to introduce to you the principles of the foreign policy of Zaire. You select the subject. There are 4 basic principles of Zairean diplomacy. First, the Zairean authentic nationality, very strange to you. Second, the positive neutralism. Third, the good neighborhood and the African vocation of Zaire. Fourth, the openness to the world. These are our four principles in our foreign policy. For all Zairians, a major facet of our view of ourselves and our nations is the principles that being authentic is being oneself. That's the first principle. Zaire has constructed its internal and external policy upon this fundamental principle, which we believe form the foundations of the existence of all other peoples and nations as well. In our relations with other states, we want to be and act the way we deem appropriate, not in a way imposed by external influences. In keeping with this basic principle, we strictly respect the sovereignty of other nations. We do not interfere in the internal affairs, and in return, we expect foreign nations to refrain from interfering on our sovereignty and from attempting to influence our internal affairs. Zaire respects fully the integrity of foreign nations and requires that its authenticity be respected as well. The principle of authenticity is indeed the cornerstone of Zairean foreign policy. Second, in order to safeguard our authenticity, the people of Zaire firmly refuse to pledge allegiance to any ideological line, to take sides in this polarized world, or to commit ourselves to certain zones of influence. This implies that Zaire does not interact with other nations on the basis of preconceived ideological affinities. Rather, we utilize a positive and a realistic approach. A motto of our ruling party, the MPR, that means People Movement of Revolution, neither to the left, nor to the right, not even the center, emphasizes Zairians' rejection of a rigid political framework. It is through this principle of positive neutralism that we became a member of the non-aligned movement. Zaire's neutralism is affirmatively positive. Our country is most definitively interested in world affairs and does not intend to remain inactive and paralyzed. Given our strong commitment to maintaining good relations with foreign relations, we aim at adopting creative foreign policies that are consistent with our interests. Zaire continues to translate these principles of positive neutralism into action by, for example, the recognition of the State of Israel, and at the same time, the recognition of the right of the Palestinian people to a sovereign homeland. Zaire also strongly condemns apartheid and considers it as a crime against humanity. We support those movements that are fighting for the participation of the black majority in South Africa and for the abolition of the unspeakable segregation system established by a minority on the criteria of skin color. It is also on the basis of this principle that Zaire maintains normal diplomatic relations with both South and North Korea. I've been ambassador in North Korea. We have one in South, as well as both West and East Germany at the embassy level. Further evidence of their involvement in international affairs can be found in our country's early condemnation of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, our boycott of the 1980 Olympic Games in Moscow, the support we gave to the Camp David Accords, and the assistance provided to Chad in the face of the Libyan invasion. Third, Zaire has a unique geographical position in Africa. Located at the heart of the continent and surrounded by 9 countries, with an area equal to 1/4 of Canada, or the US east of the Mississippi River, and a population of about 35 million citizens. Our country is indeed a pivotal factor in African affairs. Zaire has been actively promoting economic growth and peaceful social and political development in Central Africa. Under President Mobutu's guidance, Zaire has played a critical moderating role in enhancing stability in the region. In addition to providing a voice of reason in such international forums as the Non-Aligned Movement and the United Nations, Zaire has been very active in regional affairs. Zaire is a member of the economic community of the countries of Great Lakes, with Rwanda and Burundi. Zaire is a member of the regional summit of the Eastern and Central African states with Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, and Sudan. Zaire is a member of the Central African Economic Community, along with the Central African Republic, the People's Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, Rwanda, Burundi, and Chad. Zaire is also a member of the Undugu with Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, and Uganda. Finally, Zaire is a co-founder member of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, to which it contributes not only financially, but also with its political dynamism. True to its African responsibilities, Zaire has often responded favorably to the demands of the OAU when the territorial integrity of any African state was threatened and called for defensive actions. It is also according to this principle of good neighbor that President Mobutu Sese Seko has made very frequent missions of goodwill to other African nations. Zaire maintains diplomatic relations with all member countries of the OAU, with the exception of the Democratic Republic of Sahrawi. Fourth, with that exception, respectful of the authenticity and the independence of other countries, Zaire has recognized all peaceful nations and has established fruitful diplomatic relations with various European, American, and Asian states. Zaire maintains excellent relations with the United States of America, and the President of Zaire has visited the US on several occasions, both in private and official capacity, and is again coming next month. One of the most recent examples of a productive contact is the bilateral investment treaty currently being ratified by the US Senate and signed by the President. As I conclude the discussions, let me emphasize that Zaire intends to remain a prominent and dynamic factor in African and world affairs, following the aforementioned principles upon which we have constructed our foreign policy. Let me add also that Zaire and the United States of America have valuable and mutually beneficial relationship which promised to gain further importance and yield more benefits in the coming years. The expansion of our bilateral trade and investment relations is of crucial importance, not only because of the contribution it will make to the economic prosperity of our countries, but also because such a development will strengthen the excellent relationships our two countries have enjoyed over the years.
Mr. Drayton would like to know a little more detail about the problems that you confront in various parts of your foreign policy, but specifically with respect to your African neighbors.
Africa, South Africa, I said.
Well, actually, he said your
Neighboring countries.
Neighboring
Okay.
countries.
Okay, fine.
You think of South Africa in particular.
No, indeed. Or I can leave it away.
You can handle it any way you want to. African neighbors was the only thrust of the question.
Yes, as I said before, one of our principles in our foreign policy is the good neighborhood. That means, like we say in our language, you choose your friend, but you don't choose your neighbors. So if you want to be very safe, you have to have good relations with your neighbors. Our borders are very large. 9 countries surround Zaire. We don't have military capability to defend our own borders. So the main arms, main weapons we have is good relations. And as I stated in my statement, we belong to a lot of regional organizations because we need to have good relations. And we succeeded in this area. The only problem now is the Southern Africa problem. And this is related to the Angola problem. As you know, we have 2,000 kilometers border with Angola. That means more or less 1,200 miles borders in Angola. Our army is not big enough to protect this long border. So we try to build good relations. And as far as now, since last December 22, Angola, Cubans, and the United States and South Africa signed the agreement about Namibia and Angola. And now, as our policy is always been done, good neighborhood policy, we are trying to help to find a solution to the internal problems of Angola, I mean between the two parts of Angola. We support the national reconciliation. We support the two parties, MPLA and UNITA, to discuss together and to find a solution to the internal problems. As far as South Africa is concerned, we are only concerned about our railways network. As you know, Zaire has been exported as copper, which is in the South Province, in Shaba, what has been Katana. We used to export our copper, to which we depend on 60% of our external earnings, through Benguela railroads. And we have been unable to use it for more than 14 years. So we have to export a part of our copper through South Africa. It is not a shame to that. That's because the network, our railway network is connected. So I don't know if I said enough about your question, but if you like to pursue further, you can do it. You have enough time, huh?
Do you ever use the railroads through Mozambique?
Yeah, you know, if I recall my own experience, when I was commissioner for transportation, I did a lot of official trip to Maputo to find out the situation of the harbor there. Maputo harbor is a bad situation. Even the railroads between Zambia and Maputo is not good. Between Maputo and Nacala, not good. So they get a loan from the European community, which is not enough. The railroad is not yet sufficient to handle our traffic. Even it is not enough for Mozambique itself. Zambia is trying to use these railroads too, and Zaire. So we can't handle that for the moment. Before we have problems in Southern Africa, we used to use all these railways, except South Africa. We used Maputo railways through Mozambique. We used Tanzania railways to Dar es Salaam, and we used Benguela railways, and our own railways to the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, the Matadi. All these four railways was used by Zaire because of our products in the south, our mining products in the south. But now we can't. Dar es Salaam is that congestion. We can't use it. We use just small part of that. Through Mozambique, not enough wagon, not enough locomotives, and the railways is not a good situation.
The observation was, would you, perhaps you could comment upon security in Africa and how nice it would be to travel there.
No, I don't get the question.
Well, the question, I think the questioner is inviting your positive comments about visiting Africa and Zaire in particular.
Oh. You know, the question raised by my friend there about culture and the one you raised is a question concerning with information. When you travel in Africa, you have to learn what is Africa. You should know first, it is a developing country. They don't have as much facilities as we have here in the States. First thing to realize. Second, you read a little bit about the country you want to visit, or you go to the embassy, you ask about information. And believe me, as an ambassador in this country, you are trying to do our best to create interest toward American society, toward our countries. That's our work. That's the reason why I'm here. And I think that as far as Zaire is concerned, we are trying to get tourists, businessmen, to go to visit Zaire. I give visa in 24 hours if you want to go. Except if really you are very suspicious, and I think maybe you're not going as a tourist, but to create some problems over there. And my country is one of the African countries where you find a lot of Peace Corps, of people from Peace Corps of this country. Peace Corps, Peace Corps, Corps de la Paix in French. And all these young boys have been going there for 10 years. They are back. They can talk to you about what they see over there, what the facilities are there. Because we don't like to get government to be deeply involved on this business. Private can do this. People who are being there can show you, talk to you, explain to you how to get over there. That doesn't mean that we don't have any action on the official side. I can give you an example. We invite regularly some congressmen in Zaire to go there to visit. They're very free because they think maybe the government will arrange. We can't talk to people. We can't talk to the students. They will arrange everything. They are free. They can go to the country, talk to the people. But another example, we invited the National Association of Black Mayors to go to Zaire. And we had 24 mayors, black mayors of this country, who are going to Zaire the 19th of June. And they will fly Zaire Airlines from Paris. So that means you have to show them that if they read advertisement, fly Swissair, fly Lufthansa, fly Air France, fly Pan American, or fly never an African Airways company. So they will judge by themselves to be a regular flight. That's the action we are taking. We have to go step by step with your help. The ones will go there and will be back. They'll say, it's not so bad. So maybe next time we can go. There's something to do, something to learn. That's my answer on that question.
There are two questions. First of all, would you explain for the benefit of the audience and the gentleman asking the question, the nature of your economic relations with your neighbors? And then secondly, would you comment upon why Zaire is as friendly as it is with South Africa?
We are not friendly. We are pragmatic. I would like to answer your first question about CPGL. And CPGL is economic community of Great Lakes states. That means the former colonies, the former Belgian colonies, Zaire, Rwanda, and Burundi. And he said it's one country, Burundi, for example, works away if Zaire will stay not alone and have just a community for two. I would like to say that we have pragmatic approach in our policies, and I said it in my speech. We had, before the independence, special links between Zaire, Burundi, and Rwanda. Something has been done positively during the colonialism period. And I think that we can have some cooperation, some economic cooperation and political cooperation, because the neighborhood is good to have a good neighbor. We can have problems in our countries coming from Burundi or from Rwanda, and vice versa. And if one country wants to run away, it is free to do it. But we have some goals, and think any African countries is bound by what we call we all we decided when the head of state met in Nigeria to have the Lagos commitment. We all believe in the Lagos commitment. That means the integration of African economies. And as far as this Lagos commitment is concerned, there is a program on the African Economic Committee of the UN to put a special emphasis on creating regional economic entities, and step by step to get in several years, maybe I'll not be alive on that time, to have an African economic community. So as first we create an economic community between 3, or between 4, between 5. We all have the same goal at the end, to get to the African economic integration. So if one country, or Rwanda or Burundi, decide to stay with this free market with Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda and Burundi, and to run away from the CPGL, it's okay. But they belong, in the meantime, they belong to the Central African Economic Community. So we still work on the integration. CPGL will be killed, but the CAC, Central African Economic Community, will be still alive. Going to your second question about South Africa. You know, we are pragmatic in Zaire. I said it, I stressed it, that we don't act on ideological basis in Zaire. We are pragmatic. We don't belong to the West or the East. Even Gorbachev is moving. So, we didn't invite Peter Botha because we approve apartheid. No human being approve apartheid. It is bad. We condemn apartheid. We don't like apartheid. But if Peter Botha invited him, it was our contribution to all the solutions in Southern Africa. Not because of economic independence. We don't depend on South Africa. Even if I said that our railways network are connected, we can do without them. We lose, of course, some percentages of our external earnings, but we can do without them. We are not economically dependent on South Africa. We can do without them. But it was our contribution. Somebody who had to talk to him. And you can believe it or not believe it, Mobutu is a courageous leader. He did it. We knew that it was controversial. Even the day Peter Botha was in Zaire, in Badolite, I received hundreds of telephone calls in my embassy. Why did you receive this man from apartheid? Hundreds of telephone calls. Keep calling. Americans love to call. And because the telephone is working. But the main reason, it is our contribution. Somebody had to talk to Peter Botha. Even as far as the media are concerned, only the fact to see a strong leader of apartheid, as Peter Botha, getting in an African black country, shake hand to a black leader, sharing the meal with a black community. It's positive. That means he does not believe anymore in apartheid, but he has to fight in his own country. That's the meaning of that. And we took advantage of this and asked him. We said, listen, we receive you in Zaire. You know that will be criticized because you represent the apartheid. And we all dislike apartheid. What will he do? We asked him not to kill the 4 of Shepherdfield and promised he will not kill them. He didn't. Second, he said that he will release Nelson Mandela. But he's not out, but he's not in jail. Of course, some African brother told us, you know, you have been trapped by Peter Botha because Nelson Mandela still is not free. We said up to him, but it was his word. He will release Nelson Mandela. Maybe he's getting some pressure from inside his own party, from inside his own country too. But I think it was positive to talk to him. Somebody had to talk to him. That's my answer.
Would you comment upon what are the elements which define the good relationship with the United States, and what is the source of them?
Maybe I was flattering you too much. Huh? Since Zaire has been independent in 1960, at the beginning of our problems, when we had shortage of plants or food, we always receive from this country. Even now, we always been on the PL480 program. And we have been developing, when Zaire was invaded from Angola in 1977, and we got help from Morocco, 2,000 soldiers, paratroopers in Zaire. They flew to Zaire by American planes. It was a secret. And we have been developing very good relations. I can give you details, forgive me. But we have very good relations. And you will see that President Mobutu will be the first African leaders to be received officially by President Bush. That means something. Thank you.
Would you present Zaire's position with respect to the Palestinian question? And the implication was, is it consistent with the OAU policy?
Thank you for this question, because let me think about another question. It is, when I developed the point about our positive neutralism, this is the question. When you belong to an organization, or OU, or UN, do you think we vote in the same ways in the OU? We vote in the same ways in the UN? No. Each country is its own policy, but we try to work together toward one policy. But in that specific question, Zaire has shown its independence toward foreign policy. When Israel invaded Egypt, President Mobutu came at the UN in New York in 1973, and he announced that we broke diplomatic relations with Israel. And all the African countries followed. We broke our relations with Israel, supporting Egypt, an African country. That was clear. When in 1982, Egypt, after the Camp David Accord, we said in Zaire, there is no reason, because we broke this relationship because Egypt, an African country, was invaded. Now they see the agreement, they feel they accept the situation, and Zaire, 1982, resumed diplomatic relations with Israel. So a lot of African countries didn't agree with that. But we are independent. We are a sovereign country. We decide about our foreign policy. And we resume our diplomatic relations with Israel. And we send an ambassador over there. And they send an ambassador in Kinshasa. We had some aid from Arab countries like Saudi Arabia Bank, or from Kuwait, from Arab Development Bank. On that time, I was Minister of Transportation who had a lot of money in the pipeline for the railroads. It was cut because Zaire decided to recognize Israel. And Israel was able to replace that amount of money. We lost this money, but we were independent. But in the meantime, we recognize PLO. I said it. in my speech. Because we feel that Palestinians had the right to have their homeland. We recognize PLO in Zaire. But they don't put an embassy in Zaire, up to them. But we recognize them. So we are free. We recognize Israel as a country. They have the right to live. We are the first African country to break the relationship. We are the first African country after Egypt to resume the relationship. And we recognize PLO. If some African countries feel that it's bad to recognize Israel, they are free. They are free. Up to them. But if you analyze the world situation, we all have to recognize Israel in the future. Because now even Yasser Arafat recognizes Israel. So we said in the country, you can't be more Catholic than the Pope.
The question is, would you comment upon your ongoing relationship with Belgium with respect to economics and the social relationships and their contributions to your educational system?
This is a very sensitive matter because our relations is in a crisis for the moment with Belgium. But I'll try to find some answers to your question. As you know, Belgium has been the colonialist power in Zaire. But in the meantime of the independence, we, after all these years of fight from 1960 to 1964, we had very bad relations because, as you know, Belgium did support the Katana secession. And since then, after 64, 65, we built good relations. And Belgium contributed to our education system as far as our system was based on Belgian system. And we have, and we still have, a lot of professors from Belgium. The experiences of Belgium toward the cooperation with Zaire, they are from two levels. One is what we call assistance. That means for 5 years, they finance in Zaire 20 billion Belgian francs. We have to divide by 38, 39, $12. I mean, maybe you make the calculation. I'm not good in mathematics. 20 billion Belgian francs for 5 years. This is not too much, really. Not too much. But that means something. And a lot of this money goes in salary. I have a chance, I've been a Commissioner of International Cooperation, so I can speak about it freely. 60% of this amount go to Belgian working in Zaire. Salaries, good money. 40% equipment in Zaire. But we got something, nevertheless. We have also another kind of aid that I call really the help to Belgian balance of payment. That means, okay, mining company, we are ready to lend to you $20 million, okay? Small rate of interest. But you have to buy our trucks, you have to buy our clothes, you have to buy our machines, you have to buy, etc., etc. I call it help to the unbalanced payment. That is the situation.
Would you comment upon the situation in the Sudan and the position which Zaire is taking with respect to it?
Yeah. Sudan is a very hard question. Yeah. Because even myself, I don't know really what's going on now in Sudan. But you know, the origin of the system was a regional problem. You saw the Christian and the Muslims in the north. But we have been keeping really a little far from this problem. But President Mobutu has been asked by the government of Sudan as a mediator to this problem. And Colonel Garang has been in Zaire a lot of time. That's media, they don't write about it. They don't like about it. I don't know why. But we are helping, but behind the scene, we are trying to be, we are mediator officially between Colonel Garang and the government over there. And as far as we share borders in the north with Sudan, we are concerned. We had some people in the northern part of Zaire and south of Sudan, same tribe. They can just cross the border, they become Zairian. They cross the border, they become Sudanese. So we are concerned, and we don't do anything openly, but we are still working as mediator.
What is your per capita income, and how do you finance health care?
Our capital income is very low, $300 per capita, very low. But in Africa, we should know that it's very difficult to get these figures because a lot of business don't go through official channels. So the official figure 300 per capita. Sometimes less than that in official figures. If I can comment about your second question, the health budget in Zaire represents 3 to 5% of the budget. It's a big problem in our countries, not only in Zaire, in most of developing countries, because we have been fighting for economies. If you had to spend for social expenses, you have to produce more, even in this country. So sometimes just I am about to laugh when I read some comments saying they don't spend enough in health problems. Sure, we don't spend enough because we don't have enough to spend. And as far as we face this problem, we use more the bilateral aids from friendly countries and from the international organization, as WHO, as UNICEF. We use all the aid from some associations. But I can assure you that the budget from the government is not too big. That's my answer on that. We have to produce more to get more money for our social expenses.
The question is the CIBA involved in helping the world, and Americans in particular, to overcome their illiteracy with respect to the contributions of Africa to world civilization?
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting question because on my own experience as becoming...
What is the CIBA?
CIBA is a French. It means Centre International
Study of the civilization
of Cultural Bantu. Bantu is one of the group, the...
28 nations?
Yeah, because we have Bantu, we have Nilotic, we have Sudanese, we have Bantu, Sudanese, Nilotic. That's the main groups in Africa. And the Bantu have one culture. And Bantu, we have Bantus in more than 20 African countries. So they're putting their culture together. So
Can't hear.
you can hear me. The microphone is weak. That's not my fault. So it's positive. I think that the question he rose is a very interesting question, because I said on my own experience, has been here for a second term, because I've been here the first time in 70. I was junior diplomat, and they come back as ambassador. I know that American people have to learn a lot about Africa, and even about geography, that you know about that. Because one time they put Zaire in South America. No, I'm not kidding, it's true. So I think if you're working on that, it's a very good idea. Because I know that Africa is a little far from this continent. And it is interest, if you want to learn about a continent, about a country, you have to find some interest. If you don't find some interest, you are not interested at all. So if you go to Sisiba and you try to find out the contribution of African culture to all this country, this is a great thing. As far as we know that a lot of population of this country come from Africa. So it will be a good contribution. And Sisiba can do it. He can handle it.
Having a son who's done in 4th grade and done a paper in Zaire, you're now in the top 0.5% of Americans with respect to knowledge on Zaire, I'm sure. The question is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, continuing to give ample resources to African countries, and in particular Zaire?
Your son wants to know that.
The son or the mama? I think both want to know that. Thank you for raising this question. It's just one of the question. We are very sensitive on that question of IMF. Not only Zaire, but most of developing countries. Why? Why? I'll explain the Zaire case. Because I'm a ambassador of Zaire, not from Africa. And I would like, if your son wanted, you can call me in the embassy, you can get more information, because I'm proud to have him working on Zaire. We are member of the IMF. We love IMF. We know that we can get a lot from IMF. We know that IMF can help us to solve our balance of payment problems. We know all these things. When they work on our countries, their own behavior is like if they have been working in the United States, where everything is already done. But they forget that they are working in a different country, where 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 is maybe 1.5. And from 1983 to 1986, if I can recall, we have been quoted as the best student of IMF in Africa. Zaire was always taken as an example of good students applying all the commitment toward the World Bank or toward the IMF, paying his debt on time, getting out of the price control, rising oil prices, no control on agricultural prices. Very good students. After 4 years, in 1986, the Central Committee of our party, one party, not two, said that's too much, because people were becoming more poor and more poor. No new investments in the meantime. But we still continue to pay. During that period, Zaire paid $2 billion toward the rich countries, United States, France, Belgium, Italy, Great Britain, Japan. $2 million. dollar US. No, US. Dollar US. 2 billion. 2 billion. 2 million. No. You can get 2 million. 2 billion. 2 billion US dollars. In the meantime, we receive back in the country $1 billion. That means a poor country as Zaire exported to the rich countries 1 billion net. We said it's a scandal. It's a scandal. What we're doing? Only to receive compliment? You're a good student? You're a good student? You're a good student? People coming poor and poor and poor, giving money to the rich countries, nothing back. We said stop it, and we stop it. And we stayed 1 year and a half without any program with the IMF. And we had a lot of meetings explaining that we are still members of IMF, but we have to take into account 2 things. That any program have to face the development of the country. You have to develop the country and not the stabilization program. And 2, we refuse to be the net exporter of external currencies, of external earnings. We are developing country, you have to get more and send back less, not the opposite. That was our official position for 2 years. And now we came to an understanding with the IMF. And what is the question? The problem was, when we have been paying, the country was supposed to bring money in the country. They didn't. They didn't. So the country was dying. The country was dying. And now we have agreed on a new program, and we'll sign it next month. Well, that's the situation about the IMF.
We do have to adhere to our promise to end our session as close to 7:10 as we can. I apologize to Mr. Drayton and others who have questions. Mr. Ambassador, this has been an unusually informative and interesting and thoroughly enjoyable evening. We thank you very much for being with us.